Okay. All right, I think we're ready to go. I'll call the meeting to order. And glad to have everybody here and to get this important work done. So as we all know, Mondays are a very busy morning, so we're gonna get right into it. I'm gonna have Ms. Randall just go through the topics quickly just to get us all together.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. For the record, my name is Judy Randall, Legislative Auditor. I think we probably should start with a roll call because you guys will be taking some action today.
Sure. Okay. Ms. Garrity, will you go ahead and do that?
Senator Kiffmeyer.
Present.
Representative Erickson.
Erickson present.
Representative Hansen.
Present.
Senator Klein.
Here.
Senator Karan.
Present.
Representative Liebling.
Present.
That completes the roll. All members present.
Thank you very much, everybody. So back to you, Ms. Randall.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. So thank you for making time today. I know it's an incredibly busy week. We will be efficient today. The goal for today, as a reminder, is to narrow the list of topics from the 15 you selected at the previous meeting down to 10. We will then put those 10 topics on the survey that we will send out to all members to gauge their interest. And then once we get that information, we'll meet one more time to narrow it down to 5. So what has happened between the last meeting and this meeting is that staff have prepared one-page background papers on each of the 15 topics you all selected. You should have all received those. They're also posted on our website and as part of the meeting, et cetera. Those background papers basically rate each topic on the topic selection criteria that the commission uses to select topics. So things such as how much state resources are used, the level of control the state has over the program, the impact of the program on Minnesotans, timeliness, feasibility is one that I'll just point out is important. Is, can we do something? Are there questions that we can answer either with our skills or the data that are available? Balance is always something to think about. That's a combination of things. How many other topics related to a similar committee or area of state government are on the list? Did we just look at this recently, et cetera? And then kind of an overall assessment. And so the chair has asked me just to very quickly go through the 15. I'm just gonna hit maybe the high points or the things that maybe are the most important from our perspective to think about on each topic. And then of course, we'll go from there. So just going alphabetical there, this is the order that the background papers are in your packet. I'll start with the Board of Nursing. This is something that we could do. We have done it. In fact, that's probably the biggest comment I would have on this topic is that we looked at the Board of Nursing in 2015. There are always concerns and frankly complaints related to the Board of Nursing, but as something that we have looked at relatively recently, I'm not sure that it's time to go back, but we certainly could if it's something that you all are interested in us doing. Next up is broadband infrastructure. This is a really important topic. I think this one, the biggest thing to know is that the timing is really tough because the standards being used on this program in particular are switching. We've switched from using state control, state funding to federal grant, federal funding. And so if we evaluated it at this point in time, we'd be looking back at state standards, yet the federal standards are kind of what would be being used for the next round. And when the next round starts, it's not quite clear. So again, this one is one that I would say, let's put on the list again, because it's an important topic, but the timing is tricky. County mental health crisis response teams. We think this is an important topic. As I think we all know, mental health crises have increased, unfortunately, in recent times. And then, of course, there's a lot of concerns about who is handling them in the community. I would say this is a big topic for us. It's definitely something we can do. We would need to do some scoping. We would probably focus on a sample of counties. But again, this is something we haven't really looked at this before, and it's clearly an area of concern. Destination Medical Center is the next topic. This is, an economic development program. It's about 7 years in, so it's a decent time to look at it to see, is it on track? I think the complication with this one is it's a real mix of, there's some state money, but then there's also private money, nonprofit corporations. So this one would require a lot of scoping, something we could do, but I'm wondering, I think there's some concern within the division that the scoping might not get at really the key questions that people want, again, because of the control of who's in charge, who's making the decisions down there. Energy Conservation Improvement Program. This is another one that we have looked at. This one is in 2005, so it's been a while, but it is a program we've looked at. This one, if the commission selects it, I would want to have a conversation about which questions are you interested in. If you want us to do an evaluation of the cost effectiveness, we do think we would need to hire a consultant, which is what we did in 2005. If we look more at what are the best practices out there and are different programs using those best practices, that is something we could do without a consultant. The next one is grants to nonprofit organizations. This too is one we actually did in 2007. One thing I will note for you all to think about is there are 3 different topics related to grants on this year's list. And they're all rated, frankly, pretty highly. 2 of the topics are focused on grants awarded by specific agencies. So the Minnesota Department of Education oversight of grants, and then the Office of Justice programs, the grants related to that. I would encourage members to think about the interaction between these 3 topics. The grants to nonprofit organizations would span several agencies and has the potential to maybe be duplicative if you selected the other 2 grants programs. So in my mind, at least the way I'm thinking about it, it's like if you pick the MDE grants and the OJP grants, then maybe you don't do the nonprofit ones generally, grants to nonprofit organizations generally, if that makes sense. When we did the grants to nonprofit organizations evaluation in 2007, we looked across about 6 different agencies and how they awarded grants. That report resulted in the creation of the Office of Grants Management, which now sets standards for all agencies. And so the grants to nonprofit organizations topic, I almost see more as an evaluation of the Office of Grants Management policies and the extent to which agencies are implementing those, as opposed to digging in deep in MDE or OJP. So just as you think through these, that might help. The next topic is the Minnesota Department of Education grants oversight. So we would be digging more deeply into the Department of Education's oversight of grants. Of course, this one is borne out in part because of the concerns related to feeding our future. And this is a way we could look at some of those questions without interfering with the more specific investigations that are happening of feeding our future. We would be looking at the state agencies' actions. Moving on, the Minnesota Department of Health process for counting COVID-19 deaths. We did change the title of that topic a little bit to have it reflect work that we could do. So rather than looking at, is the death correctly attributed to COVID-19 versus something else, this would be looking at the way the Department of Health looks at that data, makes judgments related to that data, works with providers related to that data. So again, it wouldn't be us looking at the death certificates and questioning the professional judgment of medical examiners, but rather it would be looking at the Department of Health's process for reviewing that data. The next topic is the Mpca landfill permitting and oversight. This is a topic that we think has some timely questions, and it's something well within our wheelhouse that we could look at. We have gone to PCA recently, but that's okay. The Minnesota Sex Offender Program, as you may recall, in the last meeting, we switched the set of questions to be focused on public safety. And this is one where feasibility is difficult. So we thought about what are the different ways we could approach this question. So one would be, okay, for the very few people, frankly, who have been released from the program, has there been a public safety, have they re-entered the public safety system, I guess would be the way I'd say it. And there's really very few people. The other thing would be trying to find people who have been recommended to be committed, but who didn't get committed, and then see if there was a public safety impact from those folks. So this one is feasibility is difficult, and we probably want to have additional questions or conversations with you all about how we could approach this if this is something you all want us to pursue. Next up is Office of Justice Programs Grants. I think we've kind of talked about this as part of the grants discussion. This would be looking deep into grants awarded by this program. I would note that there are many programs, grant programs within OJP. So we again would need to do some scoping and focusing on certain grant programs and how they oversee and manage those and what outcomes we get. But again, something that's certainly doable. Programs supporting Minnesotans who are Black, Indigenous, or people of color. This topic, at least the way the questions are posed currently, seem very descriptive to us, almost more of a cataloging of kind of where has the money gone. And so we weren't sure it was the best use of our data skills and our access to not public data. Also, we would clearly need to do some scoping on how we focus that and how we define it. Is the intent to be on programs that are focused solely on supporting members of those communities, or is it programs that may support members of those communities? So again, we would need some additional conversations with you all. Rent Help Minnesota, and then CHAP, which is this COVID-19 housing assistance program. This one, again, as you know, came to us because there are a lot of concerns about how Minnesota Housing Finance Agency has implemented these programs. In fact, I just received another request from a member last week for us to do something related to this. So I know there's a lot of legislative interest in this topic. It is a program that has ended, and it was largely federally funded. So I think there's some questions around kind of both the timing of it and the state control of it. On the other hand, I think that there are significant enough concerns about how the agency has implemented this that I do think there are things here that we could look at. Southwest Light Rail Transit. I don't know if you want me to say more on this topic. We've all been talking about this a lot. The bills, as you know, there were bills in both the Senate and the House requesting that OLA conduct either a special review or a program evaluation or both. And then there's language in that bill saying if the Legislative Audit Commission selects this for a program evaluation, here are 17 different things we'd like you to look at, like OLA to look at. This bill has passed both bodies, and last I knew was on the governor's desk. And there was also some funding to help us with that request. I will note that we, as you know, have initiated a special review. We sent a whole series of questions to the Met Council and are expecting a response to those questions by the end of this week. And we will be conducting some work related to a special review. So we will certainly be in compliance with that law. Finally, sustainable building guidelines. This is something we haven't looked at before, and we do think that it's something that we could add some value to. I think there's a lot of questions about who is responsible for ensuring this is happening. And so I think this is something we could add value. So Madam Chair, I hope that's helpful. I know that was really fast. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you. Madam Chair, you're muted.
Thank you very much, Ms. Randall. I appreciate that. Question for you on Southwest Light Rail. Because the law has been passed, I mean, this bill's been passed and so on, does that mean that this choice, number 14, Southwest Light Rail, is no longer applicable, or do they work together?
Madam Chair, thank you for the question. It is still applicable. It is completely within your discretion. So the law has passed, and the law says OLA conduct a special review or a program evaluation or both. And the way the bills were written, it says if the audit commission selects it for a program evaluation, then answer these questions, please. And so we are conducting a special review, so we will have met the requirements in the law. You know, as you know, we have fewer special review resources than we do program evaluation. So the difference is, do you want a team of evaluators digging into this for 9 months, or should we handle it through our special review process, which would be more limited in scope?
All right, okay, thank you. The other question I have is on number 6 and 7, where we have a fair number of grants, Oversight, Office of Justice grants, nonprofit, MDE, as already under a federal investigation, if I recall right.
Madam Chair, that is correct. There are 3 topics on this list that relate to grants. The grant to nonprofit organization would look at a number of agencies, and we would have to select a sample and look at their processes for overseeing grants to nonprofits, like looking at compliance with the Office of Grants Management policies. The Department of Education grants would take a deeper dive at how the Department of Education is overseeing grants. Yes, you are correct. There is a federal investigation looking at Feeding Our Future, which is a grantee of the Department of Education, but the federal investigation is looking at the actions of that entity in particular. We would be looking at the Department of Education and their oversight of both that grant and other grants.
So like Southwest Light Rail, then it's still applicable, even though the feds are investigating. Okay.
Correct.
That kind of clears that up. Okay. I see some hands up with questions. I didn't catch who was up first, but Senator Klein, I'll just go to you first.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Ms. Randall. And I guess I have a question for Ms. Randall and then a motion, Madam Chair. And the question is just, can you refresh my
Senator
memory?
Klein, before we do anything, we're going to answer questions from people. We're not going to jump into a motion until I've been able to answer process questions or et cetera. Okay.
Very good. That was my question, is refresh my memory as to where this goes from here. We narrow it to 10 and then the members narrow it to what and over what time period?
Ms. Randall?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Senator Klein. So you narrow it to 10. This afternoon, hopefully, we will then put out the survey to all members. Because you're all, I think many of you are now in person, we're going to do hard copy surveys, but also email. And so we're going to do a blitz, maybe even just through this week because of our timeline. And so give members a short time frame, but get them focused, respond, and then you all will meet again. And then we will walk you through the process, look at the results, and then you all will select the 5 topics for evaluation. And then we will have the full commission meet, and the full commission will need to approve those 5.
So, Madam Chair, follow up.
Sure, Senator Klein.
Yes. So actually, I will wait on any motion until the committee is prepared, and I appreciate that process. If I was going to make a motion, it was going to be suggest that we follow her recommendations on the top 10 and move those as our subjects for now. I hear the concern that there are 3 within the top 10 that cover grants and that this may be duplicative. However, knowing that we're going to have 2 further narrowing processes after that, that problem may solve itself. In fact, I anticipate it would. So that might be my suggestion at this time. Of the bottom 5, as I listened to Ms. Randall talk through them, it didn't sound like there were any that she thought were particularly amenable to the skills of the legislative auditor. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Klein. And again, these are process questions. And so Representative Liebling.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And so, Ms. Randall, one of the things I noticed when I read through these, and I'm just not sure if this is how we always do it, but the column about state resources, and it seems like, you know, even though right now the state is using a lot of federal dollars for a lot of things, but I don't recall that we ever confined ourselves only to things that use state dollars, because I just want a reminder about that, because it seems to me that often when we're using federal dollars, that's equally as important, because as a legislature, we want to be good stewards of all of the taxpayer dollars that come to us, no matter which entity allocated them. So I just would really like to hear a comment on that. And then, Madam Chair, when we get to it, I really do have some comment on some of the particular issues here that Ms. Randall has talked about, because quite frankly, I don't necessarily agree with the way these have been listed in priority order. So, but I'd like to hear the answer to that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Liebling. And Ms. Randall.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative Liebling. I think it's a good question, and it's something, frankly, we're struggling internally with as well, how to value the federal resources aspect of this. I think the thing to think about from our perspective is its interaction between state resources and state control. So if we, for example, looked at a topic that was fully federally funded, and we had a whole bunch of recommendations for things to make change, you all couldn't do much about it, because it might be very governed by federal processes and if it's a federal program. And so there's kind of an interaction with what's the state investment and then how much can you all do something if we find that there's areas for improvement. And so it's a little bit of an interaction between those two. But I do think it's a fair point, and it is something that we're having internal discussions around as well, of how to manage, how to account for large sums of federal funds in this ranking.
And
Thank you,
then,
Ms. Randall.
Madam Chair, if I could just kind of
Representative
continue.
Liebling.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you. So the other piece of this is the timeliness column. And I have to say, Ms. Randall, some of these I feel like maybe you all didn't quite know about the timeliness of some of these issues. And I just want to point that out to the members. For example, the one I'm particularly concerned about is the sex offender program. And frankly, I think the timeliness is high because there are questions right now. There's been a couple of hunger strikes there. It is kind of a hot topic, and apparently whoever was doing the work on these did not know about that. So I think there are some others that may have similar kinds of things going on that maybe we didn't communicate that, or, maybe in future we should have a way for the person recommending it to specifically say why it's timely. Just a thought. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Representative Lee. And by the way, Senator Klein, I will call on you after process questions since you indicated the motion. So just to let you know that I will be coming back to you for that motion when I've finished with the questions. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this question is for Ms. Randall. Wouldn't it be possible to combine the grants evaluations in that we could probably suggest 3 different agencies, among them public safety, that would take care of the justice program grants? Because I know I have several members who are concerned about that. And then maybe HHS, or I don't know if we need to do education again, since we just did a big one the last couple of years. But I would think that we could work that out really well if we did some combining and selection of agencies, no more than 3 perhaps. What do you think?
Ms. Randall.
Madam Chair, Representative Erickson, you certainly could identify the agencies you'd like us to look at under the grants to nonprofit organization topic. The more agencies that are lumped in, the more the evaluation changes and it becomes a little bit higher level, right? I mean, just, if we're only looking at OJP or we're only looking at Department of Education, we can go really deep, right? And really dig in. You add in more agencies, but the nature of the question starts to change.
Thank you. That's
Thank you
good
very much,
information
Ms.
to have.
Randall. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Erickson. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Ms. Randall, I have a question kind of on where do we get to at the end? Because, when we were in COVID, we cut back the number of evaluations that we were going to do. We tried to do some small ones, and, over the years here, and there's a number of us who've been doing this a long time. I don't know, Senator Kiffmeyer, if, when she says, when Ms. Randall says something was done in 07, I remember that report, or when it was 15, that was just yesterday, I think was 2015. And that's starting to worry me a little bit, but I'm wondering, I can remember when we would do 8 to 10, and then we went down to 6, and then I fully understand with COVID, and I'm wondering, do we have to get to 5? We've talked before about big ones and small ones and doable. I mean, particularly with the Southwest Light Rail, I think we need to do that because kind of the impression was, even though we passed the law, we were going to still keep that discretion. And so I see that one as number 6. But I'm just, and I know we've provided additional funding to the office, and we're coming back in person, and it's going to be different than it has been the last 2 years. So I just have a question on that, and then I'll follow up if possible, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Hansen. So, Ms. Randall, I think the question is, do we narrow down to 5? Can we narrow down to 6? Can we get back to a mix of large and small? Some of that isn't always the case, but Ms. Randall?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Representative Hansen. Thank you for the question. I would say right now with our current staff, 5 is the most doable. If we could find a small one here, and I'm happy to try to look for a smaller one, maybe we could slip in a 6. I can hear remotely the entire division groaning as they watch this and hear me say that. Honestly, a lot of these are very big. I'm just looking at the ranking, and many of them are quite large. And so that concerns me. Southwest is certainly not a small one. If it's a matter of supplementing the special review with some program evaluation staff, we can try to be creative. What we've done in the past on this is maybe select 5 and then pick a back burner one. And then if something miraculously happens with some staffing, then at least we know what the priority is for the members. And we can try to at least do something related to that quote unquote back burner 6th topic.
Thank you, Ms. Randall. I kind of think sometimes when I remember before, we want the staff to do a good, thorough job. And if we stretch them too thin, then that might be a risk. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And then I think to clarify the grants to nonprofits, if that is the Office of Grants Management, we should rename that as the Office of Grants Management Review. I think that would be clearer. I'm a little uncomfortable of doing an audit at the same time there's a FBI investigation in the department. I think that we don't want to be tripping over that if that's with the education one. And then finally, so I would recommend striking that if we're taking the top 10. And then on the program supporting Minnesotans of color, I think that may need some additional scoping, but I would really like that to be in the top 10 because I think it's really, we need to recognize, we talk a lot about the achievement gap or the opportunity gap with education, but there may be an achievement gap and an opportunity gap in all of our programs. And how do we actually quantify that? And maybe that's what the audit does, is we don't have a measurement or something that is here to measure outcomes on success. So I think it would be important for those Minnesotans of color to have that look at. And so I'm just throwing that out there as I would prefer renaming the grants to nonprofits as the Office of Grants Management, following up on our 2007 review, and then drop the education grants. And then if we could lift up the people of color, that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Representative Hansen. Senator Coran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just have a comment and kind of a comment and a question to Ms. Randall in relationship to Representative Hansen's statement about we're coming back in person. I think the OLA office is back in person, but the resources that you're going to depend on, I haven't heard they're coming back at all. Not in the short term, not in the long term. So all state agencies appear to be operating in a professional voicemail tag mode. And so I'd be curious, Ms. Randall, what your thoughts are as far as what's changed in our future relative to, in person, because I do believe you're far more productive and you will be more productive. And so I think we're still living in the same environment for this year's reviews. So I guess I just love your opinion, Ms. Randall, as far as you're in person, but I don't think most of the people that you're going to be managing or working with will be in person throughout this entire year.
Ms. Randall.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Senator Coran. I think you're correct. The executive branch is kind of indefinitely remote and hybrid. And I will say we are too. OLA is hybrid. We have learned how to do our work remotely over the past 1.5 to 2 years. And so I have a lot of confidence in our staff. And we have been working, we do work with the executive branch staff quite a bit. That's, they're holding the information, and we have developed ways to get the information we need through creative ways. I will note that this last year, we did not get our topics until June, and they are all out now. So we feel like we've kind of caught up, and I have a lot of confidence in the staff for being able to be productive. It may affect the extent to which it may affect the extent to which we can go out and do site visits. So that is still one thing that's unclear to me. But otherwise, I think that we can be nimble here.
Thank you, Ms. Randall. Senator Cran, follow up or?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm good.
All right, thank you. Representative Liebling, one last process question, then I'm going to go to Senator Klein for a motion.
All right, well, thank you, Madam Chair, and everybody's kind of gone off the process questions a little bit to talk about some of the specifics here, which is,
I tried.
I know you did, but this is why I feel like I need to make a couple comments too. The county mental health crisis response teams, I think that's an important topic. However, it's noted in the materials, the standards there are switching too. And that was a big downgrade for the broadband one. And it concerns me that we're not giving that the same downgrade. I mean, it's probably a bit of a smaller topic. I don't know that I would give that the high priority that it's been given here either. And I would like to support what Representative Hansen said about the people of color one. I thought it was not framed well, but I think there's a serious topic in there that could be studied. And that would be how we could maybe narrow it to 1 or 2 programs and say, how well do they serve people of color within this program? Like, well, we could look at some of them. I just think it was framed in a way that was not, I don't know if all the members sort of understand how our process works here and what makes something doable or not doable. In fact, we don't understand that all the time. So I think it would be important to give that one a second look. And I also really do want to give my push for the Minnesota Sex Offender Program, which I realize is a very touchy topic. And frankly, members, that's exactly why we need the OLA to look at it. It's a very, very hard thing for us to look at as members because it's so politically difficult. And I realize that makes it also difficult for the OLA to do. But they are in the best position to give us objective information, not opinions, but information about what's going on there, how well it's working. This is a big program. It's a ton of our money. It's high control and it's super important.
Okay.
And so there's my pitch. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Liebling. Twice, I thought we needed to.
Got it.
Got other things. Just want to mention here, though, Ms. Randall had said before, the Department of Education grants oversight, like you explained some of the others, there's a big difference between what the feds are doing and what this topic is. So I just want to remind folks of what Ms. Randall said. Senator Cran, I'm going to go for a motion to Senator Klein. Do you have another question?
Madam Chair, I just have a comment for the in relationship to Representative Liebling and Hansen's comments around the programs supporting Minnesotans Indigenous color posse population. And I think the grants the review covers most of those areas. If you look at the topic and the core focus of every grant, or the vast majority of grants, it's specifically targeted. So I think if we looked at agencies or types of grants and to do a deeper dive, I think we'll come across a wide variety of those that fit that particular scope. So just a comment. Thank you.
Good comment. Thank you, Senator Cran. With that, I'll go to you, Senator Klein, for your motion.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And my motion was going to sort of summarize what Representative Rick Hansen had suggested. And we've heard some contrary views from the committee. So I guess this motion will certainly be open to amendment. So the motion is as follows, that we would adopt as our 10 selection, the 10 most favored as suggested by the legislative auditor with the following changes. We rename grants to nonprofits as Office of Grants Management. We drop educational grants and we lift up the 11th most favorable one, programs supporting Minnesotans of Black, Indigenous, or people of color into the top 10. And that is my motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Klein. So I just want to restate your motion again. The grants to nonprofits, that one was Office of Grants Management. I think that's what that was.
Correct.
And then drop off the top one?
Correct.
Wow, okay.
Because the FBI is looking at that one, and then lift up the 11th one into the top 10.
Mm-hmm. Okay, discussion on that motion. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I disagree changing the grants to nonprofits to the Grants Management Office. I think we're going to learn a lot more critical information if we allow the OLA staff in their scoping to visit with legislators to find out what the concerns are. So I think the Grants Management Office is not the direction I would support.
Okay. Senator Coran.
Madam Chair, and this question is for, and I think we've talked about the Department of Education grant oversight, and we know the investigation is going on, and Ms. Randall will also run parallel to that as well. What I'd like to know is some clarity on what type of work can we do. We know you won't cross the boundaries of what they're working on, but I do believe the entities identified also calls for further scrutiny on specific and other state programs that we could also provide great value in. So I guess I'd love your opinion about how that parallel opportunity would run if we so choose to move that forward, in addition to the investigation that's going on with the FBI and the other law enforcement agencies around that program.
Thank you, Senator Coran. Representative Liebling.
Okay, so I would so I think we're a little bit stuck on the Office of Grants Management piece. And here's what I would propose as sort of a compromise and also putting in what I'm interested in, okay? So I would propose that we drop the Board of Nursing down and move the sex offender program up. And then keep what Representative Hansen said about moving the posse piece up also. And I would, as my compromise would be to keep the grants to nonprofit organizations as it is, because I see that some members are interested in that, although I thought also agreed that changing it to grants management would be good. And then I think we would, in order to get to 10, we would also be needing to drop the Department of Education piece because of the ongoing investigation, right? If I've counted right here.
Thank you, Representative
grants
Liebling.
there.
Thank you, Representative Liebling. Well, I think we are stuck on your motion, Senator Klein. I don't think we have a consensus to do that.
Correct. And Senator Kiffmeyer, just for the record, I would support the motion as amended by Representative Liebling, and I can follow any process that you suggest. I can withdraw my motion or amend it or whatever works for your committee.
Well, in both cases, we're dropping the most promising that has been cleared up already, and I don't think we have support for dropping the most promising right now. And by the way, members, just to let you know, when we go down to 10, there's more work done by Ms. Randall on scoping and a variety of things. And then she is able to send it out. And then we have a vote by the full legislature to narrow it down to those 5. So the big thing is, what's the list we're going to send to them? Ms. Randall, would you want to comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If it helps members, we could have 11 on the list. We could have 11 on the list for the survey, and then you can get more input from members, and that may provide some clarity for your next step. It doesn't change the final number we have to get to, but I think it could help us for now.
Thank you, Ms. Randall. Representative Hansen.
Well, with that, I would just say take the top 10 plus the people of color as the 11th. Representative Liebling shaking her head. I would be okay with swapping the sex offender with the Board of Nursing. The Board of Nursing 2015 does seem just like yesterday. If it was 2007, like an earlier one, that would be more. I think the sex offender program was last looked at in 2011, so that would be 11 years since we looked at that. But I'm trying to find a way to get us completed here, Madam Chair. And I'm okay with, not or going back to the original idea on the office or the grants to nonprofits, if that's okay. But I think it's really important for us to lift up our people of color, Minnesotans of color.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Hanson. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have not focused at all on the most promising to least promising that was put up by the staff of the OLA. And though I would certainly get rid of the MDE education grant oversight, because we have focused on them heavily in the last few years, and because we have that federal investigation going on. But otherwise, the staff has laid out for us what's most promising to least promising. And I think we should pay some attention to that with deletions of some of those that we know have had changes made. For example, if there's more federal dollars, or if like the Board of Nursing is not urgent. So I would suggest maybe that we do a round robin and we each name 3 choices that we would like, and then see how that turns out. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Representative Van Erickson, just to let you know, if we each choose 3, that is 18 choices. Okay, so that kind of math doesn't work. Members, I think as far as getting through this, I think the suggestion of taking the top 11 most promising, I think would be the area that we could probably live with the best. Okay, so I don't know if someone had that top 11 at all. If not, I'll make the motion to do the top 11.
Madam Chair, I withdraw my motion.
Okay, I will move then that we take the top 11 of the most promising. I can see, no big hands are going up. So I'm kind of thinking that let's take the top 11. That's my motion. And if we are ready to go ahead and vote, I know that we all have a number of things we have to get to. And I think with what I'm hearing on this discussion, I think this might be the more agreeable position. Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would switch out the Board of Nursing with the Minnesota Sex Offender Program. And other than that, I would be okay with your top 11.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to, it's the least promising, and I understand you're advocating strongly for it, Representative Liebling, but I do, there is another opportunity to do this as well. But I'm seeing right now, so I have my motion of the top 11, unless you want to switch out. Anyway, the top 11, I think, are of the most promising list motion before us. Are we ready for a vote? Do you want a voice vote? Okay. Ms. Randall, what's the process for voting? What do we need to do here?
Senator Kiffmeyer, or Madam Chair, I think it probably would be best to do a roll call vote.
Okay, we'll do a roll call then. Ms. Garrity, please call the roll.
Okay, Senator Kiffmeyer,
Aye.
Representative Erickson,
Aye.
Representative Hanson,
Aye.
Senator Klein,
Aye.
Senator Coran,
Aye.
Representative Liebling.
No.
That completes the roll.
Thank you very much. On a vote of 5 to 6 in favor of the motion, it does pass. And members, I thank you. I know we always go through this discussion. We like every single topic that's on the list, even the previous 100, but we have to come down to that and then also trust our fellow members in the full legislature and live to work on this, another day. It isn't that these other ones aren't important and they aren't valuable, but I think the process as we work it here just needs to move forward, and I think we will do well by that. With that, members, having completed our agenda, I'm just going to remind you of what Ms. Randall said in regards to this week. And so the votes will be going out to the full legislature, so we will do that. And then we'll come back together again for the topic selection. Then it goes to the full LAC. So it's got a couple steps along the way. All right. Thank you very much, members. With that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.